This conference will now be recorded.
Do I have a second?
Here's a
For seconds, any discussion? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, same sign. Okay. Blake, do we have a report?
We do. And again, apologies for the rough start. I'll try to tighten that up. Starting with the annual forms that were due January 1st, you can see the counties that still have outstanding forms. A handful of them have reached out to us to request extensions, but you can see just the few that are still remaining. As a reminder, the expenditure collection form legal deadline is in March. We asked for it early to do the processing and make sure there's no issues with it and give folks time to make any changes that might need to be made and still meet that legal deadline. So they still have some time before we have to start withholding surcharge. A few things on the cyber front. I did send out notice that we are having a CISA cyber awareness webinar. You can see the two sessions that we're having. You really only need to sign up for one of those offerings. They'll be the same, and they'll also be recorded, and you can watch them after the fact. We'll post those recordings to our Google site for viewing after the fact. But go ahead and get registered if you are interested in that. Also, the second graphic there, also from our friends at CISA, we did work with them to produce denial of service attack posters. I actually have 10 of them here for those in the room if you are interested. The printing was courtesy of our friends at CISA, but I do have those in the room. Also sent out those files electronically, and we will look at printing at least one per PSAP here in the upcoming months and weeks as well. So those are available if you're interested. An update from the Telecommunicator Training Board. We did meet earlier this week. We are in the process of working on a survey that will go out far and wide. And that's really my message that I want to convey is once that gets sent out, please share that broadly. We want a wide range of voices on that survey. So don't hesitate to click forward and make sure anyone that might be interested is able to weigh in on that survey. That will drive a lot of our discussion at the Telecommunicator Training Board on how to improve the 40-hour basic course. Just a little bit of housekeeping. The change management request and policy has been in place for, I don't know, 10 or so years at this point. But I always like to remind people about once or twice a year that it is there. So if you are doing any PSAP moves, any equipment moves, anything like that, please don't have your IT folks just start pulling cords. That causes alarms. It causes sometimes equipment to be bricked, and we really don't want to do any of that. So please submit that form. It's on our website. It's on the Google site. I can send it out. So if you have any of those things upcoming, please let us know and make us aware before you start pulling cords and moving things. The next bullet there, we did send out what we called a technical bulletin regarding Zetron's dual backhaul, which is the FirstNet connection. So if you are on shared services, this may apply to you. If you have a cell site booster in your PSAP or near your PSAP, we have noticed some degradation of the FirstNet secondary connection, that the backup connection with shared services. So we're still working on the exact details of the issue. I'd love to be able to tell you, if you do this, then this will happen. But we've basically noticed in about 5 to 10 locations where that service has been degraded. And again, we're still working on the exact specifications of why it happens, when it happens, where it happens, because it doesn't happen everywhere. In some places there are boosters and services unimpacted on this, but just wanted to make everyone aware that we're aware that there's an issue and urge caution if you're having a booster near your PSAP. Finally, and this one is, I think, a critical one. I think it's getting a lot of attention. and Jamie Robinson from Mahaska County is in the room too and can feel free to jump in. There's been a long-standing discussion and dispute going on in Mahaska County, specifically regarding the EMA special levy being used for 911 or emergency communications purposes. That ruling did come back, and we are working with our Assistant Attorney General. We actually have a meeting with her tomorrow to get out talking points on this and some bullet points on this. But basically that ruling came back and said if the Board of Supervisors does not want to allow the special levy to be used for emergency communication purposes, they do not have to allow that. So I know there is a good number of counties that use that EMA special levy for PSAPs, for 911, for emergency communication. And just be aware that that ruling did come out at the end of the last week. And it really probably will have some impact to you all locally. So again, I don't want to get into a lot of discussion without talking to our AG first. And again, we'll get out those bullet points far and wide after our meeting with her tomorrow. But Jamie, did you want to add anything more on that? Sounds good. Any questions on that topic before I move on? Okay, there's definitely going to be more to come. So again, just stay tuned on that. GIS grants, we did kind of close out the second quarter for GIS grants. You can see again, 98 counties successfully met the benchmarks, and it's the same dollar amount, and it's also the same county that did not meet the benchmarks. So good work for all of the counties that did. And as a reminder, that just keeps going. The next quarter, same benchmarks. So you still have 2 more opportunities to get $3,000 each quarter. There were no training fund requests for this month. We did receive word that the application that we had tabled last month went ahead and canceled their application, so we no longer need to consider that. So you can still see that the $76,000 remains for the remaining 6 months of the year. With that, is anyone from Zetron? Lynn, are you on to cover a shared service update?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
And thank you.
Okay, next slide, please. All right, so 2022 was a busy year for us. We had 30 PSAPs move over to shared services for a total of 65. We also deploy a lot of other services like EMD. We had 8 deployments of EMD last year for a total of 20. Looking forward to 2023, Carroll is first up in February going live. You can see the other ones that we have scheduled for the first half of 2023. And Bremer signed up yesterday. We'll get them added to the statistics for next month. Next slide, please. And there's the map showing 65 live PSAPs. And we've got 8 that are pending implementation with Bremer. That now moves to 9. Next slide, please. And as I say every month, we have a regular newsletter that comes out. We have the January one coming up. If you're interested in getting on the subscription, just send me an email at lynn.warren@zetron.com. Or if you have any questions about the shared services program, you're welcome to reach out to me as well. Thank you, and that's it for me.
All right, any questions for Zetron or for myself?
Like I do have one
Sure.
question about the PSAP appointees for the 911 service board, where the 911 service area for the 911 service board, the service board members, I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'm not articulating it correctly. Is there a reason why that's January 1st when a lot of the members on the emergency management commission are the same as the service board, and a lot of those are elected officials with elections and posted and getting everything certified?
Yeah, just a little history on that. And by all means, you can send us updates throughout the year. It's not like it's a one-time and that's all we're interested in. When I took over, deadlines were all over the place, scattered throughout the year. And while that might allow you to pace yourself throughout the year, it just seemed really burdensome to continually send out reminders like, hey, this is another reminder. Hey, this is another reminder. It's another deadline. It's another deadline. So I just tried to tighten it all together and make it one date. But again, we'll accept it whenever.
So it's more efficiency purposes, and then submit what you have, and then if you have elected officials, then just send an
Absolutely.
update after.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Blake. As mentioned, we do not have any training fund requests. We'll take reports from our committees. We have here, let's go to any technical advisories for us.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have some notes here I'd just like to share with the council on the Sprint T-Mobile merger on cellular site decommissioning. Probably where T-Mobile Sprint merged with each other back in August of 2020. And Russ Wireless companies that deal with T-Mobile Sprint in the past. There was, I think, about approximately 30,000 Sprint sites across the nation that T-Mobile had to decommission. Of course, T-Mobile's having difficulty finding tower crews to Sprint sites. So it's been going on for a couple of years. Received decom letters over the past couple of years, but we're seeing more activity now with the decom of Sprint. And T-Mobile is actually got another program that they've started. They've gone, whoa, let's back up here. They've got a program called Sprint Keep. So they've gone back and said, hey, we want to keep these sites. So they've notified us in some of these cases where they want to reinstall the TMO or the T-Mobile 5G equipment and or upgraded antennas as they progress more into the 5G scenario. So we still have, 4 top cellular companies, Verizon being the largest company, AT&T claims they have the best 5G service across the nation currently. T-Mobile is number 3 on the heels of AT&T and Verizon. T-Mobile obviously does a lot of extensive advertising on their service. And of course, Dish is picking up the areas where Sprint is being decommissioned. So Dish is looking at those Sprint sites. As far as the process is going with T-Mobile and trying to build out the Dish 5G network as well. Dish intends to operate on a new company name called Boost Infinite. Just wanted to pass that along. I'm dealing with Sprint myself and T-Mobile on some of these, but as the T-Mobile and the Dish progression to the 5G networks around Iowa.
Thank you. Okay, any other technical advisories? All right. We get an update, the Iowa Statewide Interoperability Communication Systems Board from Captain Richard Pierce or Pierce Falls, or both of you.
I'd like to introduce Haley Nichols, who's here. She is our new SWIC. She will be taking over here by next month for the update.
Good morning. Not a lot to update. Obviously, over the holidays, there wasn't a lot of activity, but we have started scheduling next year's ICTAP course requests. So that includes ComL, ComT, and I believe IMTD was one of them. You mentioned, Blake, the upcoming CISA cyber awareness seminar. That was one of those ICTAP requests as well. So we hope to be sharing that with you real soon once everything's locked in. We have a board meeting coming up here next. We have ComL that will be adding to the credential list of ComLs in Iowa, which is always a nice thing. the cadre of personnel. But other than that, it'll be helping Haley with getting her up to speed with as much as she wants, both technical and administrative, and kind of filling in where needed.
Very good. Welcome, Haley. All right. Moving on. We have an update from U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity, and Infrastructure Security Agency.
Thank you. Blake, I have a microphone.
I will mute myself.
All right. I know my audio is coming through now, so that's good. Thank you, everybody. Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Please omit the title slide. It appears that I got bit by the OneDrive monster and online file syncing, as the title slide is usually the last one that I update. Wanted to start off today with an update to a report that was given this past summer about quantum computing and cryptography. There was a concern for a while about our current encryption that we use in our systems, whether they're file servers or their communication systems. One thing that has come out recently from NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, is that AES 256 is currently considered to be quantum secure. So what that means for us as emergency communications systems owners and practitioners is that the encryption that we're implementing now, which from my understanding is primarily AES 256, that is expected to stand the test of time with quantum computing, at least for the medium to long term, which is a good thing for us. There's been a ton of initiatives and efforts, not only within Iowa, but nationwide, to implement AES 256 encryption on communication systems. So this work looks like it will stand up to quantum computing. Now, quantum computers are still a ways away. Current experts are estimating somewhere between 5 to 15 years for nation states to have such equipment. So the good news for Iowa as a whole is that the work that has been done to secure our systems will hold up for quite some time. I wanted to pass that update on, as that is very fresh information as of last week, based on the sources we have available to us. On the next slide, continuing with the concept of encryption, this is something that had been discussed for quite some time on a national level. The National Law Enforcement Communication Center, which is based in Florida, manages a large repository of encryption keys for federal agencies, states, and local agencies. They are no longer issuing new keys that are based on the DES encryption standard. DES has been around since the 1970s and possibly earlier, depending on what circle you run in, and they are no longer issuing those keys. Now, for those of you that have slots in your radio that has DES keys, you can still continue to use them, and legacy keys are available if you're working with some partners that use keys from that body, but they are no longer issuing new keys. On top of that, DES encryption is actually being removed from P25 standards, and there are only placeholders that are going to be left in the standards for backwards compatibility with new equipment. So CISA wants to encourage everybody here that AES 256 is currently the most secure method of voice communications that's available to radio systems, and there is an encouragement to use that type of encryption on your systems, which many of us already are. CISA also has several documents that have been produced by the Federal Partnership for Interoperable Communications that cover encryption, and those are all available for download online. Next slide, one last update for encryption. This is more system related. So for those of you that are using over-the-air rekeying on your radio systems to keep radios up to date with current encryption, which I believe many are, NIST has recently approached several groups about changing a very, very, very deep level algorithm in how over-the-air rekeying actually works. Not to get too far into the details, but it would be an update in an algorithm from CBCMAC, which is the legacy algorithm, to a new algorithm, which is CMAC. This is a pretty big change that would come to systems potentially, but CISA and the Federal Partnership for Interoperable Communications and these standards bodies have all come together with NIST to figure out a path forward and to ensure that there is backwards compatibility for system owners and operators. What that means for the state of Iowa is that those that are owning and operating and maintaining over-the-air rekeying equipment and radios, As you cycle in new radios that will be compliant with this new requirement, they will continue to work with your legacy systems, which is a big plus. So more work is coming out on that in the next several months. I wanted to make sure that Iowa as a collective state was on the front end of this, as you guys have devoted a tremendous amount of time recently to making sure that you can have secure interoperable communications across your state. That work that you put into it was very forward-leaning, and you are very much on the front end of this adoption of AES nationwide. So kudos to everybody in Iowa associated with those systems. Next slide. CISA released a document in December. It's called Considerations for Establishing Agreements for Next Generation 911. This document is geared towards providing some sample language and things to consider when those types of agreements are looking to be executed. This includes roles, responsibilities, available resources, and technical requirements. It's designed to be flexible enough so whether you use an MOU or an MOA, you can use this as a guidance document, and that is available for download on the CISA website. I've put a direct link in the slide deck as well. One last item as far as new products from CISA. This came out earlier this week. It's a document entitled Securing Small and Medium-Sized Business Supply Chains. This focuses really heavily on information and communications technology that we all rely on for our daily business. It talks about how to understand how supply chains work and how to share resources to ensure that small and medium-sized businesses can use supply chains to make sure they get what they need when they need it. Now, this document is geared primarily towards businesses, but as we've all seen recently in emergency communications space, getting parts and pieces has been relatively difficult over the past couple of years with the pandemic. There's a lot of lessons within this document that can be applicable to public safety agencies that own, manage, and operate communication systems, whether it's 911 or alerts and warnings, or even radio systems. So that document is available for download, and a link to where it lives on the CISA website is in the bottom of the slide. One last item of note for national level business, the SAFECOM nationwide survey is slated to come out within the next month or so. I want to recap this a little bit. I would encourage everybody here to take the survey when it arrives. The big push is to try to make sure that rural agencies are well represented on this survey. If you think about the responses that SAFECOM and CISA have gotten in the past with the survey, it's a few hundred responses. If you have a lot of rural agencies within the states like Iowa respond, that rural perspective is going to be well represented. You will be getting an email about this survey relatively soon if you are an agency administrator. So if you get it, of course, practice safe email practices and don't click on any links until you verify the source. But you will be getting something relatively soon about the SAFECOM nationwide survey, and I recommend that if you have the time and you have the staff and you have the personnel, please fill it out. Last slide, regional news for the group here. The NFL draft in Kansas City, Missouri is slated for April, and we are delivering several courses to them to prepare for this event. Many of these are focused around CommU, which Iowa delivers yearly, but there's one course that I would like to point out to the group here, and that is the Incident Communications Center Manager in the last bullet point. That is slated for mid-February at Lee Summit Police Department, and the Kansas City metro regions have decided to open these courses up for regional attendance as well. So if you think about the courses there, if you wanted to have one of your personnel attend a course immediately, there is a COML available, there is an INTD available, but there's also a course that has not been held much in Region 7, which is that Communication Center Manager course, and that is happening 13 February through 15 February, and that is open for regional sign up as well. That's my report, Mr. Chair. I can go ahead and take any questions.
All right, thank you, Chris.
All right, moving on. I don't believe we have any Chapter 34A committee report today. Going on to baseline knowledge, I just want to mention that the baseline knowledge committee report came out back in 2020 along with the survey results, and it was a victim of the pandemic, I believe. I don't think it really got the attention that it deserved. A lot of work went into it. It's a very, very telling document. And I believe Jamie, I think you put it back out. I don't know who that was all sent to, but if you haven't looked at that, a lot of things were going on back in 20, still are. But take another look at that. I really think it kind of got a little bit kicked aside because of all the things that were going on there. And it did take a lot of work, and it has a very important, it should have a very important result, I would hope, in training for 911 professionals in the state of Iowa. So, Jamie, any updates you want to give on anything related to that?
Well, so one of the other factors we had was some changing at ILEA, and that committee hadn't met for some time, and I know we were looking several months ago. They were gonna have some changes, and we were hoping to get things going again. Nothing really came of it, but I know now they started to meet again. They might have been going on for a while. I just now know they started meeting again. And I know Rhonda, who I think she does 34 for this as well. She was just appointed by IEMSA. Actually, both of us were, and then they figured out that they could put us on the same committee, so they kind of changed things around. So I went to the last meeting with them, and they were talking about the survey, and I was like, are any of you aware of what we did, back in 2019, 2020? And I'm guessing the former person at ILEA didn't, because she sat on some of those committees with us, some of those meetings. I'm guessing she never really took it back and shared anything with it. So I shared that out to that committee at ILEA, and I actually got placed on one of their committees to help with this new survey that they're going to send out to everybody. Like Blake said, I would encourage people to take the time and get it to all your staff and have them fill it out, because there is some changes that need to take place, and you need to have that voice because it's about our people. So,
Right.
But yeah, hopefully this will get looked at again and before. But I mean, I really think ILEA, that committee, really has to take the lead on this because they're the ones that make the changes.
Right. And I think it's important for managers of 911 to really look at this as well, and make sure that when your people are coming back from training, wherever they go, get some feedback. And if you have issues, things that you really like, that you really want to recommend, it's good to hear about that. And it's also good to hear about recommendations for things that might be lacking. Always remind everybody that this is an advisory council, and of course all of its committees are advisory in nature as well. So we're never ever telling anyone what they have to do, but we'd be wasting our time if we weren't giving some advice. I mean, that's the purpose of our existence in the first place. So thank you,
Jamie, I'd be happy to put that on our Google site as well. Our Google site for PSAPs was created after that was created, so I think we could put that on our site so everyone can access it again.
Thanks. Okay, any legislative issues? Any information sharing by council members?
Chairman, you have something to provide on behalf of the bureau chief for the governor's traffic safety, the new school safety bureau, GSSB. Special Agent Don Schnichter wanted me to communicate that as part of the governor's initiative here, DPS Communication received an additional 5 communication specialists to support the Safe Iowa tip line that they're developing. So the students in the schools can provide tips and things that would come in, and those tips would be answered in the process. Now, especially the Schnichter is going to be reaching out to all the SOs, and PDs, and the communication managers to see if they can obtain an email address from all Iowa PSAPs that tips received through the Safe Iowa tip line can be forwarded for action 24/7. So he'll be reaching out for all of them. I just want to give heads up that that's coming out so people are aware of what it's for. They don't want to really sit at the one person's email and not get acted on. I'd like to see if they can coordinate maybe like a group email that would be at the dispatch so that everybody gets that. Part of the requirement from this tip line is for the dispatchers to follow up and report what action was taken. at the local level. Some tips will be forwarded to the schools, and some tips may be forwarded to the local law enforcement PSAPs for action. They'll also be asking for a list of all schools located within their dispatch jurisdiction. So then that way they'll know which PSAPs to call for what tips to come in from whatever schools may tip. That's really all I have. Does anybody have any questions regarding that?
This might come up as you're reaching out for that. We used to have at iowa.gov email addresses for all the PSAPs. We used it for basically to intake grant applications through Google, so they could upload documents securely. It became not economical to keep those, and nobody was using them. So you might get some feedback like, doesn't the state already have this? We did eliminate those, but it would be a good conversation to have if we want to partner and see what we can do to bring those back. The issue that we ran into as well is nobody actually used them other than for submitting documents to us. So to get somebody to log in and monitor those will be a conversation too, but just to let you know.
I'd recommend that we reach out to emergency managers in those areas, because I know, like for Polk County Download Service Board, our emergency management has DLAN, and so we have all of schools' contact email information for those contacts, and so that'd be another efficient way to find out who that contact has already been established.
It's like we're at that point now, we're just trying to develop these communication lines. Because they come in, they're finishing up on the application. It's NAV 360. There's several states out there that have been using this. We had a conference call with Wyoming yesterday, and they said when it first came out, they were getting about 100 calls a month when it came in, but then it trickled off after a while. It's the newness of it, it wears off, and you get more of a baseline what your calls would be. So we kind of anticipate it being more along the lines of probably like Wyoming or Nebraska, what they're getting. That's all I have in regards to that.
Okay, and I might also point out, just from our own experience in Iowa County, some of your school districts may already have a similar system in place, and it's going to be up to you, stakeholders locally, to coordinate this change. The last thing we want is communication difficulties, because parents don't know which one to use if there are multiples, which I think at least in the beginning there will be. So just be aware of that. Anything else?
Mr. Chair, this is Mike. I have one question.
Okay.
It might be for Blake or Lynn from Zetron, if she's still on. Just for my clarification, it was noted that there was 30 PSAPs in 2022, 65 total on the shared services. And looking at the map, which I don't have up in front of me anymore, but it looked like it was county by county. So I'm making the assumption that all PSAPs in a county turn up at the same time. Because obviously we have more PSAPs than we have counties. So I'm just clarification for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think if you look at an older map, we may have colored in the entire county based on one PSAP. And as time has gone, I think we've tried to improve the map as well. So if you look at Hardin County, if you look at Lynn County, you see some of those PSAP boundaries that are fragmented, like specifically in Hardin County. Most of the county is green. There's a little dot, which is Iowa Falls PD, which is yellow. So we're trying to depict the difference in PSAPs there. So again, in Hardin County, the sheriff's office is on shared services. The PD has signed up, but has not gone live yet.
Okay, yeah, I was just, when we talked about 65 pieces, we have 113 or 112 or whatever we have. I mean, I just was trying to figure out if it was 65 out of 99 counties or 65 out of 113 where we were at.
Yeah, so it would be 65 out of 112.
112. Thanks, Blake.
Yep.
Thanks, Lynn. Yep.
Okay, any other sharing by council members? All right, we don't have any unfinished business. New business, wanted to discuss, Tracy, I think you mentioned last time about talking about maybe some changes that might be necessary in the training fund policy.
Yeah, and I wasn't unable to get that to you in time to send out, so I will get that to you by next week, so it can be on so everyone will have almost a complete month to look over it. I'm not sure what our bylaws say in terms of changes, how many days it has to be, but I was on leave, and so how many days do we know?
The-
I would have to pull it up and look.
Okay, I just want to make sure I hit that deadline, so we'll able to take action on it at the next meeting.
It's not a bylaw change, so it should just be, it has to be on the agenda.
Okay, because I know with some bylaws, they say any kind of actionable change in the policy.
I think it's just a policy change, not a bylaw change. So, okay, we'll put that on for next month.
Okay.
All right, thank you. We don't have any travel requests. Do we have any business from the floor in the room? Do I have any business from the floor out on the phone or on the website? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. A second?
Second.
All those in favor? Signal by saying aye. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.